Hi there, and welcome back to another kind of review or opinion about stamping and scrapbooking tools. This time it's about the Misti, and I have always wanted to stamp because I like coloring, but I can never get the images as crisp and as clean as I like, and it always just drove me nuts. I always just use like an acrylic block and then my stamps, and I'm not very good at lining them back up, and it's always a mess, and then I get discouraged, and so then I stop stamping. So I've had a ton of stamps in my collection for years that I've probably only touched like 2 or 3 pieces out of the whole collection, and it was time to change that. And I've watched videos about this Misti Stamping Tool and thought, I'm going to give it a try and see if it changes my stamping game, and if it does, great, and if not, no harm, no foul. I will say this is probably going to be my new favorite thing, and that's saying a lot because I have scrapbook tools that I have used for over 20 years and I still keep using them, so I think this one's going to make it just as long. I chose to buy the pink one because it's like a rose gold pink, because my Cricut maker is rose gold, and when I finally get my entire craft room set up, it's going to be more of those muted kind of earthy tones. It's also available in black, and it's also available in teal blue. And there are other stamping platforms, which at some point when I've got the space, I might actually like purchase those and give them a try and let you know the differences. But for right now, this is the one I went with. So we're going to unbox this bad boy and see what's in it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory and no frills, but it's powerful. Okay, so simple, easy. It's just few things in the box. When you first notice it, when like you pull it out of the box, you feel like the foam on the back. That's to keep it from sliding when you're pressing and moving things around. So once you put it down, it doesn't really shift on your table. You open it up. It's got a pad of paper inside of it, and this is for a grid that you can use to line things up. This one, and then it's got this pad or foam pad on the inside too. You remove this if you're going to do mounted stamps or like your rubber stamps that have that foam on it that sticks to this. You leave this in if you're going to be doing the clear acrylic or polymer stamps like the Lawn Fawn or any of those others. My collection so far is mostly Lawn Fawn. I think I've started to add a few other little things in there, but for some reason those little images just kind of get me in the feels. So yep, there's a pad of paper. You can use this up, or you can laminate these and reuse them over and over. You can also buy, they call it the My Petunia mouse pad, and it's basically one of these on foam, and it's pre-laminated, so you don't have to laminate it. So if you don't have a laminator, that's going to be a more cost-effective way to do it. So the way this works is you pull this off. And if you have a laminator, you would want to laminate a few of these. You can use 1 or 2 just disposable like this also. Put this in. There's also this magnet that holds things down. So somewhere underneath this, there's a pretty decent piece of metal in there, and this magnet is super strong. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you're setting up your petunia is find a way to lift this back up off. I can pretty much get my fingers under it pretty easy. It seems like they've rounded the edges, so it's pretty easy to pick up, but a lot of people recommend putting some kind of masking tape on it or something to grab it better. Okay, this is just a Doodlebug washi tape, and I'm just going to put a couple strips of it on there. That would be the other kinds of stamps that I have are the Doodlebugs, because they're just cute and little too. I've been kind of starting to eyeball a couple different brands, but I wanted to see how this went before I started investing. So I'm just going to put a couple little tabs of this on there and then trim it off in a little bit, just so it's a neater edge. But the idea is, see, and I still just picked it up regular. The idea is this way you can kind of grab onto those paper tabs and just lift it up fast and easy. And it is much easier. Okay. So there's that. I'll trim this really quick while I'm thinking about it. So as far as like getting ready to stamp, that's it. That's all you need to do. It is good to go out of the box. And that's not necessary. It's just a convenience thing. Okay, and it's got its own little storing section right over here. You can just toss it over there when you're not using it. You use all your same inks like you would with any of your other stamps. Normally you use an acrylic block like this, right? That one got too close to my lemonade. So you use an acrylic block like this and put your stamps on it, and then you have to line up, stamp, press, not wiggle, not slide, all of that good stuff, right? So we're gonna that's where this eliminates that. It also eliminates like if you happen to have like a tremor or a shake, or you're just not steady, or you drink too much coffee and you can't get your image placed nice and easy without shaking. This is going to eliminate that. This also eliminates like if you put it down and then you accidentally slide, this doesn't slide. And this also makes it so if you stamp and you don't get a great image, which is where I always had issues, then you just re-ink your stamp and close it again, and it'll line up perfectly so you can get as dark a stamp as you want. And I don't know about you, but if I don't get it right the first time with this acrylic block, I don't get it at all. So let's go ahead and do one of these. And I kind of want to do this tractor. So we're going to start there. And the idea is you can do multiple stamps at a time too and have them all lined up where you want them. So I just have a piece of regular cardstock here. The other joy of it is once you put this in here and you hold it down with the magnet, it's not going anywhere on you, right? Or if it does slip and move, you just tuck it right back down here in this corner and everything is lined up where it needs to be. So open these. And then you put it with the stamp side, the part that you're actually like the part that's going to be the image that stamps. And these have never been used, so I'm just going to rub it really fast where you want it. And I'm going to cut these out, so it doesn't really matter where I put them right now, but I'm just going to, just for the sake of saying, if I wanted this to be perfectly on my card front, this way, if you forget to stamp something or you weren't sure what sentiment you wanted until you were done, you can add it to your card without the worry of messing things up as bad or at all. Okay, and then I want this little tractor trailer or the little hay bale trailer. They kind of stick to your paper too while you're putting them there, so that's kind of handy. So basically the idea is get them where you want them, close the lid, press. That sticks your stamp to it. See how it's kind of pulling my paper too because it's a newer one. So I just messed up the alignment of my paper. Not a big deal. You just put it right back into its corner and it'll stay there. Then I'm going to slide this over so you can see. Maybe put some paper underneath there. Better, maybe. I've just been using this Lawn Fawn River Rock because it works really well with Copic markers. It's an alcohol. It works with alcohol-based markers. Versafine will do the same thing. I haven't tried this one yet. Stays on. There's a number of them that you can try. I already have the Lawn Fawn open, so that's the one I'm using. Okay, I'm not going to ink it super well because I want you to see what happens when it's not done great. Okay, move this out of the way. And then you just close the lid again. I'm not going to press hard. I just want to show you. It's still really, really good, right? I'm not too happy with the way that turned out. It's because the tire is inside a little bit more than that is too. But see how it's still kind of faded right there? And you would need another go with the ink. I wouldn't have been able to line it up again. So with this Misti, or any stamping platform for that matter, you just re-ink your stamp and stamp it again. You can press hard. You don't have to press at all. You can press and rub. It doesn't matter because this isn't going to slide. And then you open it again and see how much darker it is. It's gorgeous. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe that off. And these can get put away. If you wanted to stamp multiple images and this was set down a little bit more, let's just do that. Here, we'll move that guy out of the way. And let's pretend we want this further down. And I'm going to stick it closer too. I can line it up on these, on the grids too. So those thin lines, they're like colored lines that are inside the plastic. You can use those as a guide to line up. So I don't even have to have my paper in there yet. And I know that this is all nice and straight because it's on that grid. Then I'm going to stick my paper in there, hold it down, ink it up. Close it. I'm going to ink it one more time just because it's kind of light. That wagon got a little bit of a curve to it. Must have a heavy load. One more time. Okay, beautiful dark color, but I'm gonna do it again because I want to like cut parts out, or I'm making something that I need multiples of it. So I'm just gonna turn my card upside down, ink it up, and use it again. So if you're doing a repeat design, your stamp is already set, your alignment's already set, your paper just needs to be switched. You could just throw another like card front in there if you weren't using the same piece of paper. I like to color multiples because then that way if I want to cut something out and make it more 3D, I can. Okay, but that's all there is to it. Then from there, this makes so many other things so much easier. Masking, overlaying, we're going to go through all of those bits and pieces and just discuss different ways to make this kind of sort of expensive tool even more of a staple in your supply, I guess, because if you can get more uses out of it, it's going to be more worth the money. So, or well worth the money, I should say. So I've got some tips and tricks that we're going to cover from here on out, but that was just the general like basic use of a Misti and one of the main reasons why I bought it. And then I've just discovered all these other things that you can do with it. It's a platform that you can use for stamping, stenciling, coloring, folding papers. It's a well-rounded tool. I think it's something that if you can save up for it or you can afford to add it to your collection, it's probably a must-have. And if not the Misti, then some other brand that has a stamping platform, which we will discuss later. I haven't really researched very many of those yet. I've just been playing with this one. And I will say it's fairly versatile as far as like, you don't even have to have it on your workbench to be using it. I took it to bed the other night and just went to town with a bunch of stamps while he was watching YouTube, and I wanted to play with stamps and color, and so I just went crazy and started stamping things. So we're going to discuss the techniques that'll make that easier, some of the ways that you can kind of adjust your Misti to make it even more user-friendly, and how to get the most bang for your buck with it. One of the hacks that you can do is actually, I don't know if you've seen the waffle flowers things, but there's those, or you can cut down a regular Cricut mat, or in this case, all right, I'm going to do the Cricut Joy mat, and it fits in here fairly well, I think. I mean, it doesn't come over here to this edge, but I don't know that I need it to do that. I can just put my magnet here to keep it from slipping more to the left, and then I have a little grip mat that's going to hold my projects without having to use the magnet, and I can line them up just like I would on the petunia thing, only in this case it's going to be a little bit more, I don't know, I think my paper was cut crooked. I was like, I don't know if that's more accurate. My paper was cut crooked. Okay, so now what this is doing is it's holding my paper so it's not sliding, kind of like the mat was. Same idea. You could put multiple pieces in there. You could move it away from this corner so that if your stamp needed to go off the edge, you would have that wiggle room to actually work. What we're going to do next is practice some masking with this, which is not my strong suit because I'm still just learning how to do it. And I think this will be kind of a fun way. I've seen a couple different ways to do this. I know a lot of times people like line it up and then they stamp on something else and then they cut that something else out. I've also seen them tape parts off and then stamp. So I want these mice to be riding in that tractor, in this little tractor wagon, right? And they need to go inside the little railings, right? So I'm just going to line up the mouse or the mice stamp with the bottom, like this bottom edge of my stamp with the bottom edge of that. And this is where some of the other tools that Misti makes come into play. So we'll just do a quick unboxing of those as well. These are the creative corners, and there's also a ruler in there and some other things that help you to kind of line up your stamps. Because what's going to happen is these are kind of sticky. See how they stick to your finger? And you're going to get them in place, but then it's going to kind of be stuck to your finger and it's going to slide again, and you're going to spend more time trying to adjust that stamp than you would if you just had to stamp it a bunch of times with the acrylic block. So these corners, there's 2 corners in there there's two angles in there, and then there's this L ruler that's going to help to keep like adjust things so that they're straight and even. I'm going to go ahead and unbox this next. Simple, easy, straightforward. Okay, I want this piece right now. So this little L bracket you can put in, and my magnet's going to be in the way right now, so I'm going to move that up. But let's say this was down here and I couldn't quite get it lined up. You can, and I've got it lined up this way, but I need to slide it up and make sure it's straight. You just put your L bracket in here like this, up against this edge, and then start sliding up till you get it where you want it. And now it is perfectly straight, and hopefully my tractor is too, which it looks like it is because I use the Misti to stamp it. And then I can just go ahead and close the door, pick up my stamp, ink it. Don't ink it yet. We need to mask it off. So I don't want any of them showing. If I were going to be like super picky about it, which I might be later, I would want to go like in between all those lines too. But right now I'm just going to mask off that whole bit. Okay, so now all that's going to show up is the mice and part of their grass. Let's just look and see, make sure that they're clearing. I don't think I'm going to get any of the grass that way. I might move this down just a tad, or move them up. I want to move them up. So we'll just do this. I'm going to move them up a rung. And then I can either draw some grass in there later, or I can, I'll just adjust and see how it goes. See what I like as we go. That's kind of where this is nice too. You can kind of like feel things out first before you actually like commit to the ink, which I don't know about you, but I get the idea in my head and then I do it, and I had the order of operation wrong or something, and it messes it up, and then I have to start over, and then I'm super frustrated because why can't I figure this out? And this is just going to kind of take all of that frustration away. Okay. Then you just remove your masking tape. And then if there's lines like right there that don't quite match up and you want them to go closer, you can use a black pen, like if you've got the Copic fine liner, or if you've got Copic, if you've got just a black pen in general. Like in this case, that's not even really enough to worry about. If anything, I would be more worried about connecting my tractor, but I think I'm probably going to cut them out and then move them over. Okay, so that's masking with it. There's other ways to do that that are super easy too. You can also put the tape, let's just take these guys, or this one off. And I should be doing it this way. And put this one back on. Let's put somebody else in there. Or we'll just do them again. So let's say I didn't quite know where they were going to go yet, or I didn't know what I was putting them on, but I wanted to like maybe do it in 2 different colors. I want to like maybe stamp those little mice in brown, and then I want to stamp my grass in green. You could cover up with your tape on your stamp, and then you can mask, or that is masking, and then you can put the ink on your mice, take the tape off, and stamp. And now my mice are in that tractor without the grass. Okay, so there's that's like a quick and easy way of masking too. Super fun way to do it either way. I'm just happy that I can actually like layer stamps and get more of that illustration / cartoony look without having to really fight it or spend a ton of time fussy cutting. And I know, and I will show you ways to do it without your or with your the die cuts that come with these as well. We'll do that further in the video, so keep watching. Lots more tricks and tips to come. But there are, oh, see, I moved my paper, so it chattered. It's not entirely foolproof, but it is easier and better. And I got ink up there somehow. I'm not sure how I managed that. Anyway, there are still ways to mess it up, but I feel like the learning curve is just a little less high when it comes to stamping things. Okay, so let's move on and discuss a few other things that we can do with this bad boy that make it more cost effective and increase your craftability. All right, I'm going to go ahead and remove my Cricut Joy mat or any other grippy thing that you might have that you can put in there. One thing about this too is the Misti with these edges, because my Cricut Joy is just kind of tucked right here in this corner, I can just do the same thing with its acetate cover and lay it down in there, and it just lays down in there perfectly. So now this is covered perfectly by the acetate again. I didn't have to fight it. I didn't have to pull it up and do it again. I'm going to just put this petunia grid in there so that you can see those lines across again as we do this, and put this down. I'm going to put, I feel like we might need another magnet for this, so I'm going to pull one of these out. And then one thing that I've seen that I absolutely love about this Misti is the way that you can stamp a sentiment and then just slowly move that sentiment up your page, and then just keep stamping without having to reposition the actual stamp. So this one says, "It's your birthday." And I'm going to start it up here at the top. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball it to line it up with maybe like, well, where I would start it if I wanted it to like flow down the whole page. Okay, and then just to double check that it's straight. I don't know if I can do it this way, upside down. Okay, because I want this edge against there. Move my magnet for a second, and then I'm just going to slide this up just a tad so that I know I've got that completely straight across. Oop, and it stuck to the thing. Let's do this. Close it so it's where I want it. Take this out. My paper should be fine right about there. And I'm just going to put this kind of in the corner to hold it and keep it from sliding this way too. Okay, and then I'm just going to double check. It's still nice up there. It's still straight. Okay, it's never been used before, so I probably have to do what they call a stamp off or stamp out a few times. And I'm just going to stamp on some scrap paper really fast just to kind of get that conditioned and ready to go. And then that will make my next, like when I actually am officially stamping it, it'll make it a little bit more solid and even. Okay, so we're going to do happy birthday, or it's your birthday. And I don't know about you, but words are always hard because you kind of can't get the whole impression. And these are really easy to like squish and wiggle if you press too hard when you're using the acrylic block. So I'm just going to do the inking on it twice. Okay, not much pressure. Don't have to mess with it much. Now I want to make it flow down the page. So what I'm going to do is just move this up 2 times, or 2 of these. These are each a centimeter, I think. So I'm just going to go up 1 grid space and then another grid space because I want some space between my words. I don't want them like touching each other. If you had different colored inks, this is where you would ink it a different color. I'm just going to go down the page in black. Okay. But I just have to do it 2 times. See, beautiful. And then I'm just going to move it up 2 times. 1, 2, slide my corner, just to kind of keep my paper where it needs to be. And I'm just going to keep doing that until I have the whole page covered in "It's Your Birthday" sentiment. This would be so much fun with rainbow colors. I'm going to have to get more ink. Or like their favorite colors, if you could do like an ombre, if they liked purple, and you could go from like purple to lavender or something with it. That would be gorgeous. If I were doing this with just an acrylic block, I probably would have given up by now. It would have been too much and I would have messed it up royally. Like, I've had a few little mistakes, but they're nothing I can't live with yet. This next technique is another reason why I think I will forever use a stamping platform. I don't know about you, but I have a really hard time lining up my die cuts on a stamped image so that it has like the perfect amount of white around the edges of it. So one way that the Misti makes that easier is you can cut them out of the white paper first without stamping, and then put this negative space inside your Misti or inside your stamping platform, and then take your stamp that you want to stamp. And unfortunately I put mine away. Hold on. So let's say I want to stamp this tractor again, and I'm going to do the tractor, and I want to do the wagon again. It fits perfectly down inside that stamp. Like, I don't have to mess with it too much to get it lined up. It just kind of falls in there. Now let's do the wagon, and I need the pumpkins. So I'm going to do the pumpkins. I haven't used those yet, so I'm going to rub some of that manufacturing stuff off. And then this would be the cheese and the mice from this little packet. So I'm going to open that up again too. And then I don't plan on using that little mouse right now, but since I've already got him cut out, I might as well just stamp him so that he can be floating around waiting to be used. Use him for inspiration or something. I didn't cut this set apart. I just left it. And I will say one thing I am super frustrated with about Lawn Fawn is having to cut my stamps apart, because I think I have that. Do I have that backwards? No, that's the cheese. I don't like taking the time to cut them apart. I just want my stamps to be ready to go. And I feel like that one's a little bit too big for the stamp. I noticed when I was cutting these, if you get any bend at all in your in the wire, like this part here, I don't want to spend forever like filing those down either. But if you get any bend at all, it stabs into your paper. So I'm gonna have to clean some of these up a little bit better. Speaking of which, let's do that one in a minute. Anyway, so got the stamps, have them in the negative space. Gonna set my Misti down, and then pull that paper off slowly. It's sticking to that petunia in the back there. We'll just reline things up, which it's okay if those things shift because I've used the corner as my guide. So all I have to do is just put this back into the corner. It's sticking to the foam. Hold on. That's got a wrinkle. There we go. Okay. So just stick it back in the corner. Let your magnet do its work again. So now those are all lined up with each of these empty spaces, right? The negative spaces. So now you can cut your die cut multiple times. Like I've got the cheese two times. I've got the mice two or three times. I have the wagon ready to go. Why do I was upside down. I was like, why do I feel that cut out backwards? I've got pumpkins, and I've got the tractor, which unfortunately has that divot in it, but we're going to go with it anyway. Okay. So now you fill back in those negative space. Oh, I need the mouse. And ink up your stamps. Okay. So you can get a lot done at one time here. You're not like stuck to just one image on your acrylic block, or trying to like line up multiple things at once and making sure that you're not off just like a fraction of a little tiny millimeter, right? You just stick these all on the top of the Misti, make sure these are all in your corner, everything's in its negative space, and then put your stamps down. Give that one a rub, and I'll probably ink it again. Nice, it didn't stick, so that's good. So one more go. You wouldn't, I mean, I don't know about you, but I would be spending forever trying to line things up if I weren't using this platform. Okay, so now they're all inked and they're all cut, so you can just pop them right out and go use them for whatever it is you need. You can do the same thing once they're colored. And I'm going to show you. I'm not going to cut it out on this one just because it's I put the chicken in there, and so it's going to ruin it if I cut it. But where did I put? Oh, okay. So I colored this one, and I also stamped the chicken on the inside. So now I can't use the die cut on this. Plus, I did the masking and put the mice in the cart, so I can't use the cart on this either. This one I'm going to have to fussy cut. But if I already had it stamped, and let's pretend this is all colored, you can put this also in the negative space with that perfect amount of room around it, right? So that you can see it through the hole. You know you've got a good lineup. Then you take your die which mine needs to be trimmed down again. Or not trimmed down, but I need to get those little tags out of there. But it fits perfectly into that negative space. So now all I have to do is tape it down. Just grab some tape. It's a big piece, but I don't care. And I can run this through my die cut machine, right? And it'll cut it out perfectly with that right amount of white space. So, all right, so I ran this through my die cut machine. This is the piece that I was using for the scrap that was already stamped on. And I could have had it colored if I wanted to, and then I can just run it through the Misti. It kind of, that's going to be, tacky tape is a little bit more tacky than it's supposed to be after it's been squished. Okay, so the die cut made the perfect white edges around it because I was able to line it up inside that negative space. And if I'd have stamped first in that negative space, and because I had the paper underneath there, and then I could have run this through, like you can do double duty and use your Misti for lining that up. I don't know about you, but using die cuts, I never could get that lined up just right, and it always would irritate me that there was more white hanging off one end than the other. So now you can either put it through and stamp it after it's been cut, or you can stamp it and then cut it. But either way, your Misti can help you get all that lined up. One more thing about that one too is, first off, it's really, really nice for those little pieces. Like if you're going to do like this little tiny heart, those ones are way easier to line up if you've got this guide already there for you. So even if you're just trying to stamp it onto something, maybe having this there would help. Also, if you do this template paper that you're going to run through your die cut, similar to the packaging size or whatever it is that you're storing these in, then you can save this template and use it again for later. Also, I've just done like a ton of these that I'm not going to use on anything anytime soon. So I'm just going to store them with these die cuts and the stamped images because I'll have them for later to color. So if you have it out and you're already stamping, you might as well do a handful of them if you know it's a design you're going to use again a lot later. Not a lot later, like later down the road, but if you're going to use that design a lot and you want to have more of them to use later. For this next technique, we're going to do something a little bit different. Okay, so first off, I'm still going to be working on this one because I've already gotten it this far. I might as well just see what I can do to turn it into a complete card. So I'm going to close my Misti, and I'm going to, actually I need the magnet out. I'm going to close my Misti and turn it upside down. And this should work with, like, if you've got the Tim Holtz or any of those others also, because they have this foam on the back also. Okay, I have this Lawn Fawn that I needed stencils, but I didn't have a cloud stencil. And I've got this Lawn Fawn that's like a border, okay, cloud backdrop. So I cut a piece of paper out of that, and then I tore this piece off because I just want like this much for a stencil. Okay, so I can put this on here, and I'm gonna hold it down with the magnet just for now so that it's not being it's not moving around while I do this. But I need a little bit of masking on it because I don't really want to get ink all over the foam. So I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna need some masking on those, so we're gonna work on that before we start messing with this cloud. I don't think I want, I'm trying to decide. I think let's do this under. If you've got a piece of scratch paper, this is gonna work better. I'm gonna do a piece of scratch paper, or you can, if you've got like your sticky, like if you wanted to use your Cricut and hold it down with the magnet, any of those will work too. I'm just gonna do a piece of scratch paper for right now. I'm gonna hold it down here on the bottom, and then I'm going to, because I cut a bazillion of these, I'm gonna actually use them for my mask and cover up my little mice and the wagon. And I'm not planning on putting too much ink down here, so this doesn't have to be super precise, but I am, but I do definitely want it covered. So I'm going to cover it this way down into this bottom right now because I'm not doing any inking down here. And then I'm going to cover up my tractor. Okay, so now those are nice and covered. I'm going to go ahead and run another strip of tape just across like this because I'm not really going to come much further down than that with the blue color that I'm going to use. Okay. Okay, so we've got that all laid out. I'm going to do this tumbled glass and stormy sky, and I'm going to take it from I want to say darker to lighter, I think. And then, yeah. So I'm just going to hold the clouds where I want them and kind of start rubbing some ink on there. And then I'm going to do some really pretty clouds there. I'm not sure that I want that many clouds like that. I might have to go back in with some lighter blue down there. Okay, and the nice thing about this foam in the background is it gives you a really nice, soft workspace, basically, so that your lines of your inking aren't super harsh. Like you're not going to hit that hard edge and instantly get a really hard line. You're kind of squishing into that foam. Okay, let's bring that one back a little. Do some of it down here too. Oops. And I think I'm just going to kind of rub whatever's left on my brush across so that it's not like stark white up in there, but it kind of gives the idea of the clouds, and same with down in here, just so it's not like a definite cutoff where I had all those stencils. Oop, I am so sorry about the wiggling. This table is I keep forgetting that it's not as sturdy. Okay, so now we can unmask. I'm not going to unmask my mice and my tractor completely yet because I still need to do the grass. So I'm just going to lift this. I'm trying to think how I want to do that so that I don't, gotta be able to pull this tape up too. I might just have to remask them. And unfortunately I didn't think this process through all the way, so there's not going to be any color behind them, but I think I can take care of that with some details and some other little fun things. I think I can just lay this, I want this kind of lined up at the background or the bottom of the tire. So I'm just going to go across that way. And if you had a waffle, one of the waffle things, or something that had lines on it, you could be using that for the base here too. Now that those are done, I think I can just go like this. I don't really need them on there. I'm going to leave the tractor on just in case. Okay, and so now I need green. Okay. And I'm going to go from light to dark this time. And then I'll probably just kind of scooch in behind the tractor and the mice just a little bit with some of the grass color, and not really worry if it overlaps too much. We'll see. Depends on how invested I am in this whole thing by the time I get to that point. I need another piece of scrap paper under there because I got some on the foam. I got distracted and I left that tape on, so now I've got a harsh edge, so I'm going to have to mess with that a little bit too. But depending on how this goes, I might be cutting this down a little bit too. Let's blend some more in there. Okay, and then I've got some ideas for some other little embellishments that are going to cover up some of this area down here too, so I don't need a complete like coloring. But let's do the reveal, shall we? Yeah, we're going to have to definitely put some stuff in there. Either that or they're going to have to get colored again, maybe, and pop dotted. That might be kind of cute too. Let's just do that. Let's plan on that. I'm just going to color up in because I don't like that harsh, sharp edge. And there's no way I'm going to be able to get that colored out with anything else. So if I pop dot these, it doesn't matter if there's some of the green on them, because, and same with the blue when I get to that point, because you're going to be seeing the main image, and then these are going to just be kind of in the background. And I'm shaking it all to high heaven again. Sorry. Wasn't intending this part. Oops. I just kind of want to tuck in. Take some of those harsh edges off. And then I'm going to color these guys again and pop dot them. Okay. I really like the way those clouds turned out. Okay, so the point was use the back of your Misti for inking and stenciling. The other one that I have, I just messed up on this one. I was going to use this for my example. So we'll just pull another. I'm going to just ink right on this. If you've got stencils or anything, I think this one's going to be fun. And I'll just do this in blue since we've already been doing it. But I got these Tim Holtz stencils that you can use for backgrounds and stuff. And this one's going to be super fun for something spooky. Plus there's the stars and this crackly one, which I think is going to be amazing. So let's just run some blue on there. I just mixed green into my blue. But again, when you're stenciling, if you do it on this foam, you get, it kind of just gets in the cracks better, and it's just a softer surface to be working on. So your Misti's kind of working double duty. Also, if you're one of those people who likes to use brads and stuff and you forget to reach for your cushion or your thing to use a paper piercer, you can totally use your paper piercer on this too. I mean, I don't know that you want to beat it up that much, but it's a doable thing. That's cute. That's going to be fun. Okay, that was just already there from our scratch paper, but you get the idea. Your Misti just became a 2-in-1 tool, or any of your stamping platforms that might still have this foam on the back. We've covered a lot of ways that this stamping platform can work for stamping. Now I want to kind of discuss just card making in general, or kind of another tool or way that this will help you. And I'm going to take this out for a second, and I'm just going to show you how easy it is to use these as guides to actually like line things up or fold things. Okay, so I've got a piece of cardstock that I want to use for a card base, and it's not scored. It's got kind of a line right there, but it's not scored. See, it got bent at some point pulling it off the Cricut mat probably. But I want to use this for a card, and I don't want to take the time to score it. So I'm just going to stick it in here, line it up in that corner, and then I can just fold this other side into that corner, okay? And then press, and it's going to keep those edges, as long as I'm pulling it down there, lined up, and I can just do a quick fold. Perfect edges. I didn't have to hold it hard. I didn't have to mess with it. I know that scoring gives you a crisper line, and you don't end up with, like, sometimes your paper wants to fold in a wonky position, but this was pretty quick and easy. And for a fast card that I just need to make on the go, this works great. If you have a scored card, same thing can apply. It's already scored. You can just stick it in the corner, and it'll just kind of help to get you into that position and help you hold those edges while you press on that score line without messing up your score line. So there's 2 different ways that you can use this to help you fold things also. I'm sure there's plenty more. I just haven't come across those yet, but quick and easy folded cards, good to go. The next thing I want to do is show you how easy it is to actually stamp on textured cardstock, because you don't always get a great impression, and it's probably something you wouldn't even attempt with the acrylic block, because you're definitely going to have to make more than one impression, and then you'd have to line things up. So I'm going to go ahead and put this, I don't even have to put it in the corner because I got my sticky mat. It's just kind of habit to put it in the corner. So let's do kind of an off the mat stamp too. Okay, I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to just kind of tuck a piece of paper here in the corner so that I can stamp off but not make my Cricut messy. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead and grab a stamp off this one that I want to use later. Place it where I want to stamp, which should be like probably somewhere up. Well, actually, I want it to go off the page for this one, so I'm going to kind of put it right here. And that's another thing that these corners are for, is so that you can get like a straight edge. I just doubled that up just to see how, I mean, it doubled up accidentally, but let's see how thick it is. Actually, when they're placed in there, they're right at the edge of that, the edge of the Misti. I'm just seeing how strong, they're not as strong as this magnet, so they kind of slide and move on you. But the idea of these is then you can like do an off center, but still be lined up. This is going to work great for that though too. So I want this to go off the page. I'm probably going to do a row of them across, but this one I want to be kind of off and broken. So I'm going to put it about right there. Pick it up. And I'm not too worried about this one getting bent just because it's my scrap paper right now. Press down, ink it up. Also, when you're inking, I don't know if you've noticed, but most of the time you want to like press the ink into it. You don't really want to slide it across just because you're kind of wiping as you slide too, so it doesn't get the best coverage, probably, I guess would be the term. That's pretty good. So that's on textured paper, and you can barely tell that it's textured. Like you can kind of see some of the lines right there, or like the impressions of the texture, which not a big deal. I can do it one more time, and I think that'll just fill in nicely. But then the idea of having my paper not butted up against this edge right here is that now I have like a partial impression of that stamp, and I just laid this down so I didn't make a mess. And then I want to move my stamp over so I can either reposition this or I can reposition my paper and see where it's going to fall. Let's reposition the stamp since the paper's already on there. Okay. So I'm just going to pull that off, move my stamp over for a more centered cut. And I could overlay if I'd have thought about masking or which one was going to be front and back. I'm just doing this because I'm going to cut these out and color them. Okay. Pick it up. I really love that you don't have to press like super hard. Like I see people that do kind of give it some pressure, and that and then they rub across it, which kind of feel helps too. But you don't really have to if you're willing to just do the ink a few more times. You can just keep layering that ink, and it'll just keep getting darker and nice and solid. So for a textured paper, that is a beautiful impression. Okay, so that's another great tool, or a great reason to have the tool. And we are going to move on to the next technique. This next trick is actually probably going to end up being one of my favorites because you can actually flip the direction that a stamp is put down. So like the image of the stamp. The way that this one's supposed to stamp is with this little wolf howling this direction. I want him to howl that direction. So what I'm going to do is kind of line up where I want it in here. I'm gonna put this acetate down, okay? And if you've got like the cover of any of these stamp packages, or like if you don't have this actual thick acetate, you can use any of those things. I've got a bunch of acetate, so I'm just going to use this chunk. I'm going to put this where I want it to be on my card, which if I'm cutting it out, it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to, he needs to be facing this way because he has the stamp. So I'm going to press down, pick him up, okay, ink him. And this is his first time being inked, so I might actually do a little stamp off with him a couple times just to kind of get a better impression and more ink on him. Kind of conditions him a little bit. Okay, so now that I have that where I want it, I'm going to press this down onto that acetate, okay? And it's going to leave an inked impression there. And then I'm going to turn my cardstock that I want to have him on, and I'm going to press it into these corners so that I know it's lined up, and I'm just going to press across and kind of rub to pick up that ink, okay? And it's really, really light, so you're going to have to do it a few times. Plus, I'm using textured paper just because I wanted to kind of experiment with that. So I'm just going to do this a few times. And you'll see it's getting darker. Kind of looks funny on that textured paper right now, but I think it's going to come through for us. If not, we'll try it on standard paper too. The nice thing about doing with the platform though is it's not chattering or like creating a fuzzy image. I don't think it's going to work as well on textured just because we can't get down into those grooves. So that was one thing that I wanted to learn. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do it on a piece of regular paper or like smooth paper. Okay. You get to trial run it with me here. So let's press it again, get our ink transfer, and we're going to put this down in that corner and press and rub. Oh yeah, that does much better. So it's a technique that's going to work with more of a smooth paper, not with a textured paper. And you'll notice it picked up way more ink off that acetate that first time too. Like you could barely see the impression of where I put it. Okay. Looks pretty good. There's a little bit of a halo to it, but not much. And that could just be the way that things are shifting on me. It doesn't feel like they're shifting. It might be that the way that the ink soaks into, or the way it smears across when I press it down. It's like smearing on the acetate, if that makes sense, because it doesn't have a surface that it can soak into. That's pretty good though. So now he's normally facing this way, and we could get him to face the opposite direction. So we could have two of them doing their little howl thing together. And that's how you can go ahead and reverse the stamp and have it facing the opposite direction. And this next one is all about time saving. I don't know about you, but sometimes there's a lot of things on a stamp set that I want to use, and I want to use them all at one time. So instead of having to pull each of these off and put them places to stamp with, the little smiley's cute. I don't know what you're supposed to put that on. Maybe the moon. Anyway, you can just tape this to your door. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up in the center of my page, because that's where I'm going to want to do my stamping as far as like coloring and stuff. And I'm going to just kind of get an idea of where it falls on this grid. I might even mark it with a piece of tape just so I know where the edge is. Looks like it's about right there. And the bottom part of it. Okay, so this is just going to be my guide when I flip it back over this direction. And then I'm going to flip this upside down so that it's ready to be stamped, but it's got this plastic backing on it still, so it's not going to stay stuck to my cover. So I'm going to use that guide that I put right there, and I am going to tape all the edges without getting it on my stamps here to hold this piece down. And I'm just going to use a bunch of scraps that I've got over here, because I just keep reusing them. And as long as they're not going over the edge of one of your stamps, you're good. I mean, obviously you don't want to mask anything off here. We're just trying to hold it in place. I'm going to tape this up too, just because I don't want it flopping around on me while I'm trying to do my thing. A little bit here on the bottom. And then I'm just going to kind of test it and see, make sure it's not like flopping around. Okay, so then you can just ink up the whole set. Sorry for the shaking. And I'm going to press it in. I'm actually going to rub this one around a little bit, because there's a lot on there that I'm trying to get on. Not bad for a first impression. I need some more ink over here in this corner. Okay. Probably one more time, because the bird is a little light and there's parts of him that are light, but everything else is getting a pretty good impression there. So I'm going to just do it one more time, kind of focus on the bird and that little wolf in the center. I think my moon is pretty good. Okay, and as long as you didn't push hard enough putting the ink down to like shift your tape, everything should still be lined up. And I didn't feel anything like slide or move on me, so that's good. Pull that one off. Looks great to me. So what do you do if your stamp set is longer than your Misti? Well, you just do this exact same thing, only you tape it on the outside, so this side of the door, and then tape down your thing here. Maybe find a way that you can like mark with tape so that you don't move over here, but you just open up the door and press it down onto your table, and then re-ink, and then press down onto your table. And you can use the outside of your Misti as a stamping block or platform also. Okay. Okay, we're going to use the acetate one more time. I'm going to show, I don't have a lot of stamps that are solid, like that I would actually want to like put down the color with, or that I could put down the color with. Like these are all outline stamps, but if I wanted to, like, if there were a stamp where his neck were all colored in or something, and you would want to line that stamp up perfectly with him to color, you can use the acetate as kind of like a cheat sheet guide until you get things lined up just right. So you would put the acetate in there over your stamped image, and then line up your stamp. He's my mirrored one. That's not going to work. Let's go back to our original guy. I grabbed the wrong one. Okay. So we've got our stamp in there. We're going to put the acetate in on top so that we can use the acetate as a guide. Okay. And I'm just going to make sure it's stuck to my Cricut mat there. Okay. And then I'm going to line this up. And I'm going to stamp this one in color just so that you can see the difference, especially on camera. I think I've got him lined up well, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick him up. And then grab a colored ink. Just use this blue. And stamp it down on the acrylic or the acetate to see if it's lined up all the way. And you can see I chattered, okay? It kind of went off. He's up too high and he's off to the right too far. So I can wipe this off. Wipe my stamp off, reposition him. So this is a great way to like line up if you feel like you need to re-ink a stamp, or if you're doing one of those ones that comes with like the pieces that you can use to color it back in, or to color it in the first time. Okay, so like if it laid down color first and then I was putting the outline on second, I've seen a bunch of stamps where you can do that, where you can color the image with stamping. See, now that's a much better lay, and I didn't have to ruin my piece to figure out where I wanted to put it. So it just saves you a little bit of time. You use the acetate for the guide. Now that I have it done properly with the acetate, I can remove the acetate. If this were actually coloring him in, I would re-ink again and then press it down to get that impression. And actually that turned out really pretty with the blue on the black. It made it nice and solid. And this Oxide ink made a great impression. I might start using, I don't know, somebody tell me before I look it up. I mean, I'll look it up too, but are these safe to use with Copic markers? Like, do these work with Copics? Because if that's the case, I would start inking in oxides and then coloring once it dried. That would be amazing. Okay, and then the other thing to remember is if you're using something sticky like this on the background to hold your piece, take it out and you let gravity help you. Fold it upside down and kind of curl it to get your piece off. Okay, I let go of that one too soon, but there we have it. Okay, one of the last things I want to show you with this one, just because these are all kind of like beginner tips and things to get you started with your Misti, or your stamping platform, they should keep you busy for quite a while, is stamping a sentiment at a diagonal. And also, we've already talked about, but if you've got this Cricut Joy or any of those other sticky mats inside of your stamping platform, you don't have to stamp down here in the corner. You can stamp off center or somewhere in the middle of your Misti. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and line this up in a non-traditional way somewhere out here in the middle of this Cricut pad. Press it down, and then I want to put on a diagonal sentiment. So what I'm going to do is use these creative corners, and you've got this one that could either go this direction or you could use it from this direction, like you just flip them over. You could run something this way. I want to run mine this direction, so I'm just going to line it up here at the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and use these creative corners to kind of hold it where I want it. Okay, so I'm kind of lining these up at the edge of my paper. I can feel it kind of clunk into the edge of my paper, so I know that I'm in that 45. And then I'm just going to hold that there. And I could probably even hold it this direction if I needed to, but I don't think I'm going to need to. Okay, and then I'm going to choose a sentiment, and I'm just going to choose one of these. This one's the longest one, so let's do that. It says, enjoy it to the fullest. And so I'm going to just lay it against the edge here where I want it, and then go ahead and pick it up. And I don't need this anymore, right? Because my stamp platform's taking care of that, and my mat is still where it's supposed to be. So everything is still held in perfect measurement there and placement. And I'm going to mess around with this Distress Oxide and put it down just once lightly. I think that's a little more crisp than the one I was using. And I should probably just mess with the Versa ink too and kind of decide which one I like the best. I think I like this one just because it's a little lighter for coloring. I mean, you're still going to see your colored outline edge, but that's even the blue, and it's pretty pretty dark and bold. Okay, and it only took 2. Now I've got that on a diagonal, so if I wanted to, I could cut some paper on a diagonal and put it on there. My elements could be up here. I don't know if you've seen cards like that, but they're kind of fun when they're a little bit off kilter and not your norm straight across sentiment. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. It's a really good way to get the most bang for your buck and kind of increase your creativity and your production time. It really does help to make things happen a lot faster. You can stamp a lot more, a lot quicker. And if you were doing like production line and you were doing a Christmas sentiment here and you wanted to make 10 cards, you could just leave that where it is, throw your next card in there, especially with the corner kind of as a guide. Throw your next card in, close the lid, stamp it, move on to the next card, and you're working through things really fast. So hit subscribe, ring the notification bell, leave a comment below. Don't forget to check out the shop and my website, because all that stuff keeps me going and helps me continue to do what I do. And I appreciate you, and thanks for watching.